today's episode, Maul seeks revenge in the new Star Wars animated series. Jordan Maison is here. He'll join us to discuss the first two episodes of Maul Shadow Lord. So if you guys are ready, I'm ready. Let's talk Star Wars and start the transmission.
Rebellions are built on hope.
And welcome to another episode of Radio Rebellion, a Star Wars podcast. I'm your host, Alberto Calderon. Our co-host, Oti, might be here. He might not be. He's traveling, hopefully getting on time, but that's fine. We're joined by Darth Maul superfan, Jordan Maison. Jordan, how are you doing? And thanks for joining us today. Welcome to the Rebellion.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me on here. I really appreciate you inviting me on today.
Yeah, I know you've been very, I guess, vocal as soon as the show was announced. You've shown your love for Darth Maul. We can see it in the background back there. So as soon as I know you put it out there, hey, if anyone wants a guest or anyone to talk Star Wars or talk about Darth Maul, I gotta get him on one episode. So I'm glad you're here to talk about the premiere, those first two great episodes of Shadow Lord. So yeah, for anyone that's joining us today, as always, thanks for being here. Like this video, comment down below if you're watching the replay. Make sure you subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any new episodes when they drop. We'll have special guests throughout the series of Shadow Lord. And if you listen to the audio podcast, thank you. And if you can, give us a 5-star rating and review. All right, Jordan, before we jump into kind of Maul and everything that's been happening these past couple of weeks in Star Wars, just try to get to know you a little bit better. What's your kind of Star Wars story? We like to talk to our guests how they got into this world of Star Wars, because you can be a fan and you watch the movies and that's okay. But to collect all the things that we collect, to talk about it constantly, make a living out of it, is there a specific moment that you remember that drove you into it, or just an overall your first time watching it and it's like, yeah, this is the life for me?
Well, I normally tell people I honestly don't remember a time without Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like I genuinely can't remember the first time I watched it, mostly because I just remember it always being around. Anytime
Sure.
it was on TV or whatever, we would tend to watch it. But I do remember very specifically, I've told the story before a few times, but I always credit my aunt
Okay.
with getting me, basically to the point I am now. She was the one that bought me the original, my very first VHS set. I forget which one it was. It was like 90, 92, 93, whichever, one of those that came out around there.
Sure.
She bought me that first one before the special editions. And of course I wore the tape off of them. But that was always what I considered my starting point. From there, it became, what it was. That's when I started. I was jumping into it right when the new toys were launching.
Okay.
From the Power of the Force 2 toys that Hasbro was coming out with as they were leading up towards, the 95 era. The books were hitting their swing, and all that stuff was coming in. So I came to it at a really great time.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough, I was already, big fan when the special editions were announced and, released. So I was able to see those in theaters when they hit.
Yeah. Same.
And, so I was growing up in, as the internet era was coming up with, people following the prequels and stuff like that. So I really came at it at a great time.
Yeah, it's great.
Kind of the revival time.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's usually that dark era that people talk about, the dark ages after the Reno. There's nothing going on, kind of late 80s, early 90s, but then books started coming out, the video games started coming out with LucasArts right before the prequel trilogy kind of comes out. Not a lot of people start at that point. A couple of years before, it's either original trilogy or during the
Hmm.
prequel. It's fun to always get those stories. I know during those dark ages when we're starting to see the light, and that's when you jump
Yeah.
and have
Yeah. Like I was there, I remember still being surprised going to a bookstore and be like, hey, there are books that tell news story.
yeah.
So it was a fun time to really kind of get into it. And then it just kind of just never stopped from there.
Did that then kind of lead you into what you do with Cinelinx and all the entertainment news that you cover? Was that kind of the leading into it, or was that a separate aspect?
No, I mean, it definitely played a huge part. I mean,
Hmm.
that's for me. I've always loved movies. Movies have been a huge
Sure.
thing for me, and Star Wars, of course, is a big part of that, and showed how powerful storytelling can be. Not just what you watch, but in terms of cultural impact and how
Hmm.
it affects people. So that was always fascinating to me, and it did kind of. I went to film school in
Okay.
college. I mean, obviously, I love a lot of different movies. Jurassic
Hmm.
Park was a big influence. Jaws was a big influence. Uh, but yeah. I mean, it's pretty easy to say. Yeah, I mean, I remember with my film school buds, because I was in college in 2004, 2005 when I first started, and the trailer for episode 3 was about to hit. And so of
Oh
course
wow.
everybody in my film class, we
Hmm.
were gathered around the biggest TV we could find when it was supposed to be
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
on the TV so that we could watch it. So yeah, I mean, it definitely had a big part of it, that led me down this road. And kind of honestly, the first, I don't know anybody who will remember them, but back in the day, the original Star Wars site, or the official Star Wars site, had blogs for your users, like on hyperspace users.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, back in the day when they had that hyperspace premium program or whatever, and they had blogs and stuff that anybody could write, and
Hmm.
that's kind of where I started any sort of analytical pieces related to Star
Hmm.
Wars. It was really neat because back then, people could upvote or whatever it was,
Whatever
like
it's
your
called
blog
back
post,
then,
whatever. Yeah, whatever it was back then. And if enough people liked it, then it would end up on the front page of the official
Oh,
site. And
wow.
I had
Yeah.
several of them pop up there, and I was like, oh my god, this is cool. So, but that's kind of where that part, because I've always loved writing, but
Hmm.
as far as analytical pieces and diving into stuff.
Yeah.
So technically, yeah, I guess Star Wars did kind of kick that part off.
And a little part of it. And yeah, and it's weird because I like writing also. I tried writing my own stories, but then writing kind of book reviews or movie reviews is very different than, let me just write my
Hmm.
story. You think, oh, I'm a writer, I can be an entertainment journalist or write this type of movie reviews. It's not that easy. So, but I'm
It's
glad you
very
had that
different.
kind of path to it, and the Star Wars had a little bit to do with it. And then I guess you follow your passion with about movies with this project that you have, this charity called Real Outreach that I've seen before, and I kind of started seeing a probably last year. I kind of started following you more and those sites. You talk to everyone out there a little bit about what this is, what you're trying to do. I know you have some big events coming. Of course, there's a Star Wars with the Mandalorian and Grogu coming. Can you talk a little bit about what this charity is?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, movies have always been a huge part of my life. When I was growing up, there's a reason I wore the tapes off of VHS stuff,
Yeah.
not just because I loved them, which I did, but that was my most only access to movies. My family, we didn't have a lot when I was growing up, my brother and I, and we only went to the movies maybe once a year. But I always remember it being such a huge experience for me, and just having that impact, obviously, that led me down the pathway that I went. And for years, I've thought about how to bring, because there's lots of kids in the same situation.
Sure.
not just that they don't have the money, but they're in foster families, or they're somewhere mixed up in the system with
Hmm.
advocacy groups and stuff, and they just don't get that kind of experience. Uh, and finally, I just decided to do it. I was just like, I need to stop thinking about it and just
Yeah.
start doing it. And that's kind of how it got started back in 2018. I
Okay.
just said it's time. I started putting little things together, going through all the IRS process, which was a pain.
I'm sure.
Uh, but that's our main thing. We think all kids deserve a chance to enjoy a night at the
Mhm.
movies. And there's so
Yeah.
many charities out there that are out there to take care of people's needs. These kids, they need clothes, they need food, they need that stuff. But what's not always addressed is that, they need that opportunity to just be kids too.
Yeah.
You know,
Very important.
they need that. And I think that gets lost in a lot of these conversations. Everybody's concerned with making sure they get that stuff, to live, which is important. But kids especially need that chance to just not worry about the world.
Hmm.
And movies can do that. And so that was, a big factor for me. And every time we go to the movies, it's just nice to see these kids forget about everything for
Yeah.
a couple hours, and they just get to be immersed in that experience.
Yeah. I'm glad every time that if you post one of the events and brings joy to see how much these kids enjoy it. Just watching a movie or getting to get a poster or anything. Just have that little time here, like you mentioned, just 2 hours to kind of block everything that's going out and just be kids for a little bit and enjoy a movie, kind of escape. So we'll have information about this in the description of this video, how to help, links to get to it. Like I mentioned, you're doing one or just did one for the Super Mario Galaxy movie. I
Hmm.
believe you're doing one for Mandalorian and Grogu next. So
Yep,
again,
that's
Star
the
Wars is
next
selling
one.
it. So anyone out there,
Yeah.
if you can donate, repost, share it, let people know, anything to get the word out, we'll appreciate it.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right, so let's start a little bit talking about Maul and Shadow Lord. But right before we jump into these two episodes, it got renewed for season two, which to me is not a surprise. We know how long animation projects get. I mean, in the
Hmm.
development process. So I don't think if they were gonna wait till season one ended and see the reception, we wouldn't get season two like 2030.
Yeah.
So they're
No,
probably
they.
halfway done with it already. So I'm glad that at least we got confirmation. So that's are you surprised that we're getting a second season?
No, like I mean, like you said, they work so far ahead. I think what was it during season one of Bad Batch. You had one of the voice actors for Omega was like posting stuff on her Instagram where she was recording stuff for season three, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
because they work so far ahead, which was partly why it's so gorgeous. So it
Mhm.
really wasn't a surprise to me, that it was getting another season. Is
Yeah.
And like you said, it probably is already well in the
Let's
development
go.
process.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I mean, I'm still excited
Yeah.
nonetheless that seeing that, yes, that we're going to get more story with my favorite dude. So
So let's talk about your favorite dude. What makes this character so compelling, at least for yourself? Because I remember Phantom Menace, as soon as he was killed off, here we go. They just threw away a perfect character. Everyone loves Darth Maul. What are you going to do? Jump, I don't know, 8 years in the future, how many it was. He comes back, and then we get all those certain in Clone Wars. We got him in Rebels. He dies again. We got him in Solo a little bit, and now he's back. And most of the reception for people were great. Give us all the Darth Maul
Mhm.
stories. But for you, what does it make it such a compelling character?
Well, I mean, it's
Or
tough
what do you
because
like
when
about him? It can be, yeah, he's cool looking,
man,
and that's
he's
fine.
cool. He's absolutely cool. I remember, I mean, just from the first time he was revealed, he was. I think they showed him on the cover of the first look at him was in one of the Star Wars Insider
Hmm.
magazines back in the day. Which for me, because we didn't have a computer growing up.
Yeah.
The only time I got on the internet, I had to be at school, and there wasn't a whole lot online at the time with episode one stuff. So Insider was my main access point to anything. And as soon as I saw him, I was like, oh my God, this guy's cool.
Yeah.
But then, seeing him in the trailer with that double lightsaber, and, at the time, because I've been doing martial arts for, almost 30 years now. And when that hit, I was just getting started in martial arts.
Oh, wow.
And for me, that was a big part of it too. Is like, hey, there's the guy, a character, because even in the Star Wars universe, that character was a martial artist. And of course, the Acme Ray Park was a martial artist. And so for me, that's like a huge connection. It's like,
Sure.
because martial arts was such a big part of my life. It's, still is. But that was that initial connection. It's like, this is a martial artist in Star Wars. Of course, I'm going to be obsessed. I'm going to be obsessed with them. And I just started getting, all the toys and stuff, because I was already collecting stuff by that point too. And so anything that had him on it, I had to have. And that's kind of where it started. So really, honestly, I've told people this since I've been waiting on the show since like 99.
Wow.
For this man to get his own show. And yeah, I freaked out when they teased him in Clone Wars as coming back. Like, I think I lost my mind. I was at work when they talked about it and showed the first clip of and I just I was like up running around, and
the prayers have
of
been
course,
answered.
yes, and of course, like my first thought was like, oh my God, I can finally get new toys, because new appearance, new stories means new toys. And it's kind of the same thing when they revealed he was coming back in Rebels. And it's just, for me, seeing him go from, what for me was initially just, hey, this is a really cool guy. And even some of the side stories we got, because, in the expanding universe, we got a couple Darth Maul books, even before his return anywhere else, that explained more of his backstory and stuff like that. And those were always fascinating to me, how he was developed as this weapon and his martial arts background and stuff like that. It was always fascinating to me to learn about. And then seeing how the shows took that part and expanded on it in its own way to give him new life beyond just being angry man who's too angry to die. And so yeah, it's just been phenomenal to see that trajectory that he's had. Because I think everybody was just shocked when he died.
Sure.
Even there were rumors about it, but everybody was shocked when he died, because it's like we had Darth Vader through all 3 Star Wars films, so we assumed we would have the same
he was
villain.
the big bad, right?
Yeah, we assumed. So it just seems shocking that it's like, oh my God, you have the coolest character ever, and you only used them once. And I think that was part of it. They always talk about how George Lucas was the impetus behind bringing him back, and I think that might be part of it. He's like, oh, maybe I killed off the cool guy too quick.
I made a huge mistake. I'm glad they brought him back. Is there, just wrapping up this little chat, you mentioned collecting toys. Is there like a holy grail Darth Maul toy or collectible that you're trying to get, you haven't gotten your hands in or is there not one that you're looking for?
As far as Darth Maul stuff goes, I'm sure there is. There are a handful of things I don't have. Probably the main one would be, some of the life-size promotional statues and stuff that came out. I think, what was it, Pepsi or Coke? I think it was Pepsi that did the life-size promotional one, and that's always, I've seen it before, but there's no way I'm spending that money on it right now. But yeah, that would definitely be one that I would want to add. I think the other big one would be Sideshow's Mythos statue, which is really awesome. Based off the what if, essentially what if comic that first brought him back. When that first came out, I couldn't afford it, and then now I really can
Really
because
can't afford it.
the resale prices are insane on it.
Yeah, I try not to look. If there's something I want and I can't get when it comes out, I'm not even gonna look anymore. All right, let's get into the first two episodes, the Dark Revenge and Sinister Schemes. I know you were fortunate enough to be able to see the first 8 episodes, so I'll ask you questions about these 2 episodes. I'll talk about what's coming. Try
Mhm.
not to spoil too much, but that's fine.
Nah, I'm not gonna spoil
No,
anything.
no. Um, so the first thing when I mentioned before we started, I wasn't really not sure if I want to another a mole show. I wanted something different. But like 30 seconds into it, like I mean, the animation style that we've all been drooling since we saw the first images,
Hmm.
was seeing it in motion and seeing the cityscape because the character designs are great. But just seeing the city or the planet of Janix and just getting hit with the kind of not speeder chase, but those vehicles at the beginning, the music going, and just seeing the cityscapes, all the colors, the brushwork, I was in. From the beginning,
Hmm.
I'm locked in. Were you like locked in as soon as it started? Sometimes when you're such a fan of something, it takes a little bit to kind of, yeah, this is kind of fits with everything. Or were
Mm.
you on as soon as it started?
I was worried because mostly due to how excited I already was.
Hmm.
Like this is Darth Maul.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that hey, Jordan loves Darth Maul. So for me, that was almost put me off of it because I
Yeah.
was so scared that there was no way it could live up to whatever I wanted.
Hmm.
And I've always tried to go into every Star Wars thing, with an open mind. And, expectations will always kill
Yeah.
what could
It
be a
happens a
really
lot.
great story. You shouldn't let, hey, I expected this to be your only critique. If that, I mean, then you're not enjoying the story you're being given
Yeah.
and not giving it a real chance. So I was really trying my best to not go into it with anything. It was one of those few times that I watched the trailers, of course, but I didn't really watch anything else. Like I didn't want to
Hmm.
see clips. I wasn't actively looking, for any story details or spoilers or anything, mostly because I didn't want to, I wanted to try and keep my expectations
Yeah.
from going too crazy. But yeah, like I can't tell you the biggest smile on my face, you know, in that intro sequence,
Hmm.
not just because of the animation, but just seeing how they reintroduced them, coming down the walkway,
Yeah.
killing all those people. It's like that's the Darth Maul everybody knows and expects and
Hmm.
wants to see, and they kicked it off like that, and it's like just such this supremely badass moment. And it's like, yeah, that's Darth Maul. I think we're gonna be okay here.
Yeah. And I'm
So
glad that
yeah,
you didn't see any of the clips because that was one of the clips they released,
yeah.
which I think is kind of they shouldn't have started with the introduction of Darth Maul. It was super cool to introduce to him that way. But I love that we're early on, like we're in it. Like as soon as the show starts, we don't need to go through all this background, how he got out of Mandalore, I guess
Mm-hmm.
at the end of season 7 of the Clone Wars, how he got to Janix, why are the crime lords kind of betraying him? We don't need that backstory. Like we're in, and you're like you said, they're stealing credit. Darth Maul is slashing people, and we know that he's out for revenge. So I love that we're like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is the world, and we're full throttle. We're not gonna waste time. So I think that also for like I mentioned myself, I was a little bit apprehensive. I'm like, okay, I don't need to worry about anything. Let's just go enjoy the show because I think it's gonna be like pedal to the metal, full on from the beginning. So I'm glad that it started that way.
Yeah, and like you said, it is nice that so much of this storytelling and how it's handled in the show is it trusts the audience to pick up on certain things.
Hmm.
Is not hell bent on just explaining every detail. It's not just there to info dump and lore dump on
Sure.
people. Which
Hmm.
some fans say, "Oh, I want to know this, I want to know that." Like with Bad Batch and everybody, you had people that's like, "Well, why didn't how did Asajj Ventress get there?
Yeah, yeah.
What has she been doing?" And it's like, why would you expect her to give that information in a Bad Batch
Yeah.
story? It's
Let
like,
me sit down you for 10 minutes and
yeah,
explain my whole life
yeah.
real quick.
And it's like, I get that we want some of that information, but it's at the cost of the cool story that we're getting.
Yeah.
And like you said, yeah, I don't really need that in between of what happened, because the story that we're given is him on Janix. And,
Mhm.
that's what we're here to see. And it does a great job of setting that up. And, with the visuals, it does so well with not just looking pretty, but that's a huge part of how it's telling the story.
Yeah.
There are a lot of quiet moments in this show, not just where there's just not a lot of dialogue, is they're letting the expressions, the
Mhm.
action, all that stuff tell the story for them. And it's just really neat to see that done uh in animation, especially for Star Wars animation.
Yeah, I think sometimes people just want, especially Star Wars, where's the action? Give me all the lightsaber
Hmm.
fights. And of course, that's what brings a lot of fans into it, including myself. But a lot of times, those quiet moments to kind of feel the world, especially when we talk about the two Jedi, that's how we meet them. And
Hmm.
when we see the Master, though, he's just in the rain, kind of seeing, sensing what's going on. It's those quiet moments then add to when we get the big action scenes, then it kind of pops a little bit more. So I'm glad that sometimes we get those kind of quiet 2 3 minute scene to kind of,
Hmm.
okay, let's kind of hold back a little bit, learn a little bit more about the world. We see a lot with Lawson, the captain, when he goes to the police station, he's trying to go through the details. Jumping ahead, but when they bring in Devon, this Jedi Padawan, it's like, okay, bring it over here. Let's talk it out. Let's
Hmm.
see what's going on. So those little quiet moments add to then what's going on and kind of build those characters up. So it's always great to get those. And I love that we also get early on again. We know Maul is looking for an apprentice. This is not something like he senses that there's something around that he needs this apprentice.
Hmm.
There's measures of Darth Sidious that if he gets this person, he'll try to bring Darth Sidious down. So again, it's a lot of things that maybe past series, and maybe again it's only 10 episodes. They don't have a lot of time to waste. Maybe he doesn't know that a Jedi is there, and it takes 3 episodes to figure out. Oh, maybe if I join this person to the dark side, like no, this is part of
Hmm.
his plan. So I'm glad,
Yeah.
like we mentioned, it's he has an idea what's going on, and that we don't need to wait 3 episodes to figure it out. Like, okay, this is his story. Let's go on and see it.
Yeah, no, it does a great job of that. Like, everybody talks that meme, the Surf Dracula meme, where, back in the day, if you had a show called Surf Dracula, he'd be surfing every single episode doing something wild. But
Yeah,
in today's world, it'd take you 10 episodes before he even got a surfboard.
that's our boy. Yeah.
And so, we do see that a lot. But that, I think lately, a lot of the Star Wars stories we've gotten have really managed to get past that point
Yeah.
and just kind of get into stuff. And, stuff like Andor, uh, Maul now, it really does an excellent job of trusting the audience to give them information and then let the story proceed and
Mhm.
trust the audience to pick up on, hey, this is yes, there are things that happen and you can connect these dots. I
Yeah.
don't have to connect them for you, which happens all too often in a lot of stories. And some of the Star Wars shows in the past have struggled with that as well. It's like I don't need to connect all the dots, you know, and that's really what I love most about this is how it just kind of lets you do that
Mhm.
and is trust the audience to be
Yeah.
thinking
Mhm.
as it's going along.
I think it does it in a great way. Like you mentioned, it's not a exposition ABC, but it does
Hmm.
give you little hints because they do talk about the Shadow Collective. And then we
Hmm.
learn by episode 2, there's a conversation between Lawson and his contact about what the Shadow Collective was. And we know that he's looking revenge for those that wronged him. Oh, why? Who wronged him? Well, through the
Hmm.
episode, we see he's pitting these two gangsters against each other. They stole from him. They weren't there for him when he needed them. And that's revealed as the story goes on. So, yeah, we don't need to spend all this time kind of reliving the past. The story is letting
Hmm.
us know without pushing the story forward while giving us a little bit of background. So, yeah, I love that they're doing it this way. I love the world of Janix. This very
Hmm.
underworld planet. The show is very underworld centric. The trailers, I know the first trailer was very kind of gangster underworld
Hmm.
centric. The second trailer, at least for myself, it looked more like, oh, he just wants revenge against the Empire and
Hmm.
against Palpatine. But now at least we're starting. No, this is him. Uh, he's trying to get his criminal organization back. And I love that they dive into it. Brooke Cass is back, and we get introduced to some new characters with Vario, Demas, which are
I
just
love Vario so much,
yeah.
though.
I
I don't
love
know
this.
why. Vario is such, like, we a lot of Star Wars fans joke about, every show, every movie, whatever, always has a little guy that's
Yeah,
just, everybody loves. And for
yeah,
me, Vario is such a great little guy. Like, he does more in the rest of the season too.
yeah.
Is like every time he came up, I was like, this guy's amazing. I love Mario. I don't know
Yeah.
why. He's such a great little dude.
So this is another thing that I loved about this show, because when for the people that were able to see multiple episodes, a lot of them were comparing it to Andor, the seriousness of it. And this is for people that grew up with the Clone Wars. It's very adult, and yes, it has that, but it still
Mhm.
has Vario, which is this fish head on a mecha body. We
Yeah.
have Spybot, the weird droid, which is one of my
Mhm.
favorites. We have a droid with boots. Like, it's still the silliness of Star
Man, I
Wars is
love
still
Two
there,
Boots.
while it's still giving you the adult vibes, because yeah, it's a
Mhm.
gangster story, but it's still Star Wars in that sense that, oh yeah, let me laugh at this guy, but maybe not too much, because he can just shoot you in the back if needed, or in the front, because Barrio doesn't like shooting people in the back. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, it does. I think it does a good job with balancing that. I
yeah,
think as the series progresses, this season progresses, it gets a little more intense as it goes.
yeah,
To where, but it does maintain some of that humor to the point
yeah.
where, but it is definitely more. And I hate this phrase, and I mentioned it in my review. I hate
Mhm,
saying this feels like a cartoon for grown-ups.
mhm.
That feels like it
There you go.
diminishes other
Sure.
stuff, because there are lots of great
Hmm.
cartoons for kids that are easy to enjoy for everybody. And I think there are lots of kids that will enjoy this too,
Yeah.
but because of the way it tells its story, not just the darker tone and stuff like that, but how it forces the audience to connect the dots. It just feels like that more grown up
Mhm.
story. I think I compared it to, at one point, like Primal. I don't know if you've ever seen Primal, Jindy Tartakovsky's Primal
I know which
series.
one. Maybe I saw one episode. Oh,
Yeah, it's
but yeah.
not. It's not. Obviously, it's not as violent.
Mm.
I don't know if much that is, as Primal, but
Yeah.
it has that same kind of feel that you're like, hey, this is a grown up cartoon, and
Yeah.
you have to kind of intimate a lot of the story and character elements, but it does still have the humor, and
Mhm.
that helps balance it out. And
Yeah.
but yeah, Shadow Lord's done a great job of
Yeah.
keeping that balance.
Yeah, and it does again very organically. Like, you're not thrown off. Like, oh, here we go. Here comes the comedic bit, or this guy's a
Hmm.
comic relief. It's not. They just do fun stuff that kind of keeps it. Even Lawson and Two Boots, when he brings in the coffee. And, oh, how are
Yes.
you enjoying your coffee? It's like, I can't drink it. Just kind of the cup. There's nothing in the cup. So those little things, I can kind of, oh yeah, this is Star Wars. It's still fun.
Hmm.
Rook Cass, we haven't talked about her. Great character from the Clone Wars. She's still kicking around. So I'm glad that she's back. I love that two new subrags. I thought, yeah, whatever. There's two guys to sell toys, which look great. But
Yeah.
Scorn and Icarus, I love them. I love the
There's.
Gatling gun that they have. So yeah, I love again, new characters bringing to the
Mhm.
story. Feels like they should be there. So I'm glad it got those
Yeah,
new guys.
and I mean, that is a good point too, because even though they're new and we don't really get an explanation for them, it feels like they belong there
Yeah.
all the same. Like,
Hmm.
Root Cast was really only ever in. I mean, she made her appearance a couple times in that final season of Clone Wars, but before that, she was only in that one comic, Darth Maul
Hmm.
comic, and that's kind of where she got her start. Uh, and we still don't have much on her
Yeah.
background, but everything about her, the new Zabreks that are there, it's like, yeah, this feels like Darth Maul's team. And it's just kind of amazing they were able to almost instantly make that happen without having to go back and be like, oh yeah, he picked them up here, he
Mhm.
picked him up
Yeah.
here. Yeah, when we don't have to do all that.
It
It
wouldn't
still
make
feels right.
And another one that feels right, I mentioned is the spy bot. I love
Mhm.
that droid. The way he looks like something that came out of Visions, of Star Wars Visions, with the little hat that he has. I think you compare it to that droid from Transformers, and it's 100% reminding me of, I forget the
Oh
name
yeah,
of, from the second movie, I think, or one of those. It
yeah.
remind,
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember the name either, but yes, I could definitely see that. It's
yeah,
funny though, because I knew everybody was going to love Spybot, like absolutely right off the
yeah.
bat. But I put in my review, he's actually one thing that didn't work for me.
Okay.
Not necessarily in these episodes, and I think when I rewatched
Mhm.
them again, because I watched them a couple times with the screeners, and then when it came out on Disney Plus, I had to watch it again. It wasn't as bad, but like later on, when some of the episodes get even darker,
Yeah.
it started to feel like he popped up just to lighten the mood.
Okay.
And it was like, okay, things are getting too dark. It's time to throw Spybot out
Just
here,
a little bit.
but even so, like he still popped up naturally. Like it didn't feel like it came out of nowhere,
Sure.
but it definitely seemed like, okay, we have to bring the temperature down a little bit. Uh, but I knew everybody was going to
Yeah.
be all over this droid. He just has that quality about
Yeah.
him.
I The probe droids are my favorite. I got one
Hmm.
tattooed here. So he has that
Nice,
vibe of a
nice.
probe droid. So I'm like, okay, this is gonna be my guy. I get he can be a little bit annoying at some just his voice, but so far I'm really liking him. Again, it's another one of
No,
those,
he's not bad.
and it fits
But
for Darth Maul to have that type of droid, kind of just
hmm,
messing everything up as he goes along.
yes,
Another thing that I love the way it's the way they treat the Empire. Like this boogeyman out there, don't contact the Empire. We don't want them here. Oh, but protocol says, and we got ISBs kind of has this. If you see this guy out there, call us immediately.
hmm,
Uh, Classified files on Maul that the ISB have. But I love that the Empire is kind of this boogeyman out there for Janix and Lawson. Like, no, no, we do our own stuff here. We don't want the Empire. So, no, no, let's not get involved. So, we know when the Empire shows up in whatever episodes,
hmm.
shit is going to go down. Because if the Empire's there,
Yeah,
it's going to be wild.
yeah. And yeah, that's lots of fans, and myself included, have we bitch sometimes about God, another story set between
Sure.
the prequels and the
I've done it.
original trilogy, and it's like I get it. I'm ready to move on from this era, generally speaking. But what I think lately, the last few projects, especially Andor, uh, have done a phenomenal job of making the Empire scary again.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
for a time, because in the movies, in the stories we had, they were always the bad guys, and stormtroopers just they were there to get shot by the heroes.
Yeah.
And Andor gave us that great moment in the first season with the TIE fighter that scared
Oh, yeah. Right.
everybody. And it was just one TIE fighter. I mean, how many TIE fighters? We tend to think of TIE fighters as nothing,
Yeah.
because they haven't been, in video games, other books and stuff. TIE fighters are considered, weak, but Andor made them scary again. Same with how Rogue One did with the Chicken Walker,
Mm.
and even here in Shadow Lord, they're this ominous threat that everybody knows the minute they show up, their world's going to change, and it's like and they do such a great job of making that fear feel like a real justified thing. And yeah, when they do pop up, because we know they do, the trailers have the
Yeah.
Inquisitors and stuff like that. They do a great job of making it them feel like legitimate threats.
Yeah.
Like they're
And
not just mini
yeah.
bosses in a
Yeah. Yeah.
game. Like they feel like legitimate threats now.
I love hearing that because I'm kind of tired of the stormtroopers. They're gonna miss. Haha, that's the joke.
Yeah.
I'm kind of tired of that. Yeah, it's funny. We don't need to see
Hmm.
it like actually in Star Wars. I know they make that joke about it in The Mandalorian. After a while, it
Hmm.
got a little bit tired. So I'm glad, like you mentioned, Andor took it seriously. Seems like it's gonna be very seriously here. Oh, the Empire's here. 100 stormtroopers are around. We're in trouble.
Hmm.
So I love that we also get to see that version. And then kind of moving away from Maul and the Empire is Captain Lawson and Two Boots. Again, new foils for Darth Maul. I love how what we've gotten with Lawson so far. We get a little bit of his background, kind of a frail relationship with his son. His
Hmm.
wife is kind of out of the picture or is out, is not there. It's like, okay, don't go yet. I'll go with you, but the job is pulling him away. Again, those little quiet moments that we get with those characters. I'm glad that we have this kind of character out there as a second lead, almost a third lead, I guess, behind Maul, the
Hmm.
Jedi, and now Lawson. I love that we have those kind of three different divisions, I guess, kind of in play. You like this character? What we're seeing again, Two Boots. Always great to get new droids in Star Wars.
Yeah, I love Lawson, and I wasn't sure what I was going to think of him, because the trailers don't really show,
Yeah,
a lot of them, and he's kind of positioned to be this, Darth Maul's antagonist, but he really isn't. He's just he brings such an interesting element to the story because you have the Force, you have lightsabers, you have all this stuff, and you have like this cop that's like, I'm just trying to keep my streets
yeah,
clean,
yeah,
but what I love about him is that he understands, it's not so much law and order for him, it's keeping the peace, and he has these deviant contacts,
yeah,
is what Two Boots calls them. So, and he seems to have relationships with, he talks to Vario a certain way.
yeah,
He understands Demas and stuff like that, which we're getting some of that in the comic, the prequel
yeah,
comic as well. But just in terms of the show, they do a great job showing that, look, he's doing the best he can with what he has at the table. He's not just this hard nosed
mhm,
cop, which we have plenty of that in storytelling too.
yeah,
He's got more depth to him, and you can see that he's really trying his best, and he
yeah.
wants what's best for the community that he's serving and to protect them, and he's obviously in way over his head.
Yeah,
But that makes that's really why he works so well, because it puts us, the audience, in the same place as him, because obviously we don't have the Force, we don't have
yeah.
lightsabers, so it's we watch him deal with all this stuff way
Yeah.
beyond him, and almost the same way we would have to deal with it.
Yeah. And I love, like you say, a hard-nosed cop wouldn't work because
No.
Janix is a crime-ridden world. He'll be dead in 2 minutes or be kicked out and
Yes.
replaced by a corrupt officer or something. So I'm glad that he's, like you say, he has different layers. He can talk to Vario, try to keep him alive because he wants to get him through the process, but has this other contact, Sul, I think is her name. Okay, I'm gonna go over there, talk to
Hmm.
her, try to get some information with this weird guy that shows up, this Sabrak. And then she's like, oh yeah, you wanna go out for dinner later or something? And so he has that, you know,
Hmm.
it's not squeaky clean in terms, I don't think he's corrupt, obviously not, but he knows how to kind of play the game, like you mentioned. I
Hmm.
just want to keep my people safe, keep my
Yeah.
streets as clean as possible. That the bridge is falling down. Let me go save them and help those people instead of
Hmm.
trying to arrest those guys. And
Yep.
he kind of plays that game. So I'm glad that we have that type of character instead of just, no, those guys are bad. We gotta throw that law book at them. It's no, there's you gotta play within your environment. And it seems to
Hmm.
have found a way to do it. So it seems like a cool character.
Yeah, I mean, he brings a lot of humanity to it. Like, even that interaction, like you mentioned with Devon, he specifically tells them to bring, even though he's dealing with all this other
Yeah,
stuff, he's like, go ahead and bring her to my desk, because he sees that she's just a kid
yeah,
who's obviously in some sort of distress, or angry at something, and he empathizes with that, and he even gives her, is like, look, give me a name, we can get you out of here.
yeah.
And you can tell that he's really trying, and he's not just there to throw everybody in jail or anything like that. And yeah, it really, he makes a very compelling human character.
So let's talk about the Jedi, which is my favorite thing in all of Star Wars are the Jedi. So let's go into them. We have two here, Jedi Padawan Devon Isara and Master, hopefully I don't mess up the name, Master Iko Diodaki, which
Yes.
just his design. I love this guy from the first image we saw.
Man.
I love what we're seeing so far of this Jedi Master. It reminds me of Splinter for some reason, maybe because he looks like one of the Ninja Turtles. But they're out there escaping Order 66. They're in hiding. They're begging for scraps. Devon is kind of, I don't want to keep begging. No one's helping us. Gets arrested for stealing like 5 apples or something. It's like, really?
Hmm.
This is what you're going to take me in? But again, we love this introduction to the Jedi. We keep asking why more Jedi survive Order 66. Yeah, this is how they survive, just hiding and begging for scraps instead of being the light in the universe that we're used to. Just
Hmm.
another kind of way to see where the Jedi are at this point. So I love the introduction to those guys. But you can start to see how Devon is kind of not really feeling what's going on. And that's
Hmm.
something that Mo will most likely start picking at it and maybe try to bring her to her side. But we have a great scene in, I think it's at the end of episode 1. No, I think it's episode 2 after they break out from jail. And there's the crash. The master is trying to, he squares up Mo. He's trying to fight. But then Mo's
Hmm.
just going to bring this bridge down. And he kind of goes to help those people and lets his Padawan kind of go.
Hmm.
And again, I know you've watched some of the first episodes, but when you watch those first 2 episodes, you start thinking, okay, maybe this is something that will come back to haunt him if she starts to think, oh, he chose other people instead of myself. When Maul, we know he's gonna throw that Jedi under the bus at some point. Is this something? This might come back to bite him.
I mean, it is a great scene for a number of reasons. One, because just it shows where Maul's at now
Yeah,
mentally. Because before he
yeah,
hated the Jedi, like that's all he wanted was to take out and kill Jedi. And so the fact that he just like, you essentially uses the Jedi as a way to escape,
hmm,
is kind of neat to see where he's
yeah,
at now with his calculations and stuff. But I love that Docky almost immediately went to help people because that
sure,
is what Jedi
yeah,
do. And I think a lot of that, as far as leaving, Devon and stuff like that, I think is more of a, you know, like, Qui Gon and Obi Wan. Qui Gon left Obi Wan plenty of times, and it's like,
yeah,
I mean, I know what I've taught him. He
hmm,
can handle himself with
sure,
this. I'll get back with him later. That kind of. I think it's more of that kind of relationship
okay,
that he's like, Devin can. I've trained her well. Devin can take care of herself, but these people falling off the bridge can't. And I think that was
yeah.
just kind of that quick, calculated choice that he made there.
Yeah, I think that
But
goes
yeah.
also back to when she gets arrested. And it's like we don't need to make a fuss. We'll find a
Hmm.
way. Kind of, the force will provide, or the force will kind of show its way that they're wrong and don't let you go. So he kind of plays in that realm, like you mentioned. This is what the Jedi do. If he
Yeah.
tries to save her instead, and then 15 people fall off the bridge, that's gonna be worse.
Hmm.
So it makes
Yeah.
sense.
He's a cool Jedi. I mean,
Yeah,
I love the design of him. Like you said, he's just really neat looking. And the voice actors just, I want them to read me bedtime stories.
yeah,
There's, he feels like and I think what makes him work is he feels like the Jedi everybody expects.
sure.
Like this is your typical Jedi. But the problem is, of course, we're not in typical times anymore. And
Hmm,
I think what's interesting is that we're seeing, yes, he has a good point. As far as, yes, we shouldn't resort to certain things to survive, which makes sense. And that's not keeping with the good side and stuff like that. But it also goes to show how much he's struggling with the new reality
hmm,
because all these ideals, all the stuff that he trained and learned really no longer applies, and you can see how he is having a hard time with
yeah.
that. Whether it's he's hungry, and yes, he's pushing it back, and that's obviously affecting his ability to do stuff.
Hmm,
But even with letting Devin go, you know, there's kind of a naivety there, and I think he kind of picks that up. You see him sitting outside the police headquarters waiting, and it's like, yes, there was a time where people would see reason and be like, look, just let this kid go, and Lawson almost did.
yeah.
uh but we're not in that world anymore, especially when, whenever the Empire shows up. You can't always rely, like you said, rely on the kindness of strangers to
Mhm.
survive. That's
Yeah,
just not the world they're in anymore.
yeah. And I love, like Maul tells us at one point, he's like, times have changed. What does it mean to be a Jedi in a time of lawlessness? Like that
Hmm.
time doesn't exist anymore when, oh, someone sees a Jedi. Yeah, they're the beacon of hope and peace. Let's help them out.
Hmm.
They can't even show their face anymore. They can't say, "Hey, we're
Yeah.
Jedi. We're here to help us." No, we gotta keep quiet, especially not only the times that they're at, but the world that they're in. They gotta. They. I'm guessing they went over there because the Empire is not there, but it might not be the safest place for
Hmm.
them to also show their face. So I love that scene when they're escaping. I love Solo, the standalone movie,
Hmm.
and that chase when they're trying to escape from Coronet City, or they're on their way to
Hmm.
the spaceport. And this scene where they escape demons, not demons, warriors escaping, and Maul's to Sabrak under that big blocky speeder, and
Yes.
Varys on the little one reminded me of Solo and that scene at the
Hmm.
beginning. So I love Solo. I'm like, oh, I get a little Solo vibe from this one. But in terms of Maul, he senses Devon in the prison, takes her with him, and we see how he starts treating her right, like, hey, you're hurt. The Mandalorians are
Hmm.
expert at warfare, they can clean you up, they bandage her wounds. So he's trying to again get in her head, like, these aren't the times for Jedi. uh, what else he said, how can I prove to you that we're on the same side, I'm treating you
Hmm.
right. So like you mentioned, this is a different Maul at this time period, trying to get her, at least to see his point of view. I'm not gonna go so far right now. We'll talk about turning her to the dark side. We're just, hey, let me gain her trust. Maybe
Hmm.
just treating her wounds or something. Do you enjoy this relationship between those two that Maul is trying to kind of have with her at this point?
Yeah. I mean, it's not really a spoiler to say their dynamic is kind of the crux of
Sure.
what the
Mhm.
season. Their interactions together are some of my favorite moments. In fact, next, this upcoming episode 3, is still my favorite of the
Oh wow.
season.
Okay.
Uh, is really good. But I think what makes them work so well is that even as Devon understands where Maul's coming from,
Hmm.
she still holds to those ideals that,
Yeah.
hey, we can be better.
Hmm.
And that's an important distinction. Maul is very much, a ends justifies the means kind of guy.
Sure.
He's out for revenge. He's out for something specific,
Hmm.
and he's telling himself it's for a good reason, and that's why he says, I'm not the villain here.
Hmm.
And in a lot of regards, he's not. He's misunderstood. He has a very warped view of
Hmm.
honor,
Sure.
but he's trying, and I think that's what makes him so interesting in those encounters with Devin, even in these first couple, is that you see that he's really trying to be different,
Hmm.
but because of the way he was raised and how invested he still is in the dark side, he can only go so far. You can see when he gets frustrated, he tends to fall back on threats and
Hmm.
stuff like that because that's how he grew up. That's all he knows. And so he's struggling to make this change, because he really does feel that something needs to change,
Hmm.
Sidious wise and with the Sith and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, he's
But
been
he's
trying.
struggling to do it.
Yeah. He's been trying for a while to get rid of that guy. He tried
Yeah.
recruiting Ahsoka, it didn't work. We know he'll try getting Ezra in Rebels. So this midpoint is still a different Maul from the ones we've seen on those two edges.
Hmm.
But I love, again, it's what trick will he use to try to lure her to the dark side? And right now, it's again being this compassionate person, telling kind of not, oh, the dark side has pathway to abilities, where it's like, oh, I can show you things that the Jedi didn't. Planting those
Hmm.
seeds that the Jedi might be holding her power back. You're not a prisoner. If you want to go, go. There's ways for you to leave
Hmm.
without actually explaining. Just giving her the little prompt to, hey, use the force, use that power that you have hidden to escape, which she uses at the end, which is a great scene. There is rousing music comes out, and then she pushes herself free. But again, I love how we're seeing this different type of Maul. Like, I think you'll see my point of view, but I'll let you get to it at your own pace. I won't kind of force it into you. So I love that we're getting to see this version of him. I can't wait to see what we get going forward. And also, at some point, I want to see, because from the trailers, we know that she gets back with her master and they have a conversation about Maul. And he's like, I think the master says, oh, it's not on our side or it's not our friend, something to that effect. So it's going to be great to see that how that relationship changes with Devon, her conversation with Maul, they talking with Daki, which I didn't think Maul taking her this soon was going to happen. I thought this was mid-season or something. So again, getting already surprised, kind of the twist that we're getting with this show. So I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah, it's really good so far, and I think it's got a lot of great potential, and just a lot of rewatchability. Obviously, I'm going to watch it a lot because I love Maul.
It's Maul, yeah.
But I don't rewatch a whole lot of TV. Just time constraints, all that stuff. I haven't really watched a whole lot of cartoons except for Visions. But those feel like little self-contained things.
Yeah.
And I can just kind of pick whichever Visions one I want to go with. But yeah, like I said, I've already rewatched the episodes I had, and I'm watching them again as they debut on on Disney Plus, and it's just not losing interest. It's not any less exciting. Second, third time.
Yeah.
Partly because the action's so good, the animation's so good, but the story really has a lot of interesting depths and elements to it, and the stuff with Devon and Maul is just I think it's gonna blow a lot of minds. And it's really setting up some cool story beats down the road that I can't wait to talk about.
Yeah. It's a lot of speculations out there when we get a pink Twi'lek that might turn to the dark side with Darth Maul. We won't get your thoughts on it because we know that maybe before you watch the show, what were your thoughts on it? Darth Talon for now, everyone's expecting this to go that way. Knowing Filoni and Star Wars animation, it usually goes the way that you don't expect. So we'll see where that goes. But I'm really excited to see again where the story goes. Rewatchability, even just if you sit down to just watch the background sometimes and watch everything that's going on in the city, it's a very lived-in space. So I think it's something you can go back and keep watching. So I can't wait to see where it goes. Without too many spoilers, if you can think back to when you saw the first two episodes the first time, what can we expect for the rest of the season? Again, not, well, this is going to happen, but what do you think fans can expect going forward, even if it is just for the next couple of weeks?
I think a big thing, when I watched those first two episodes, like I said, I was like you talked about, it was interesting to see how quickly it got into it. And, we do get, it feels like, you want some answers, but you're not as interested in the answers of what happened in the past. You want to see where this story goes. And I would encourage people, hey, watch where this story goes. And it does a great job. It does give you some clues down the road about, certain elements that everybody's curious about. But it does such a great job of telling its own story and keeping the focus on these characters and being so, narrow on that. This is their story here on Janix. Don't go into it looking for, this is going to connect to Rebels, or this is going to connect to this. This is, this is going to answer this. That's the interesting thing that this can do. We know all these points in Maul's life, from essentially almost from birth to death. That certain things happen, and so. But what's cool about this story is it's not interested in connecting the dots between those parts. It's more about just like, hey, Maul did some cool shit while he was alive. Let's dive into that. And that's all it is. It's like, hey, this is really cool. this is a fun, cool story, and we're going to get a lot of that, and there are hints of how certain things connect.
Okay.
But God, it's just a fun road.
Yeah. So glad to hear it, and I can't wait to keep watching. We didn't even get a chance to really dive into the music. The Kiners are incredible as always.
Oh man,
at least these first 2 episodes.
It's like a movie, man. It really is. It's movie level music and
I don't know if
everything.
it's been kind of official, but I'm guessing they're gonna score the Dave Filoni movie if he ever does it. It has to be there.
If he ever does it, yeah.
I really want it to be, because to me, I love a lot of the Star Wars scores, like television wise, like the Mandalorian one is iconic now. But I think some of them I'm missing some of what really makes it feel like Star Wars, except Kynos. Like all the animation that they've done is great. The Ahsoka might be one of my favorite. So I really want to see them. And again, like you mentioned, not knocking animation down because it's a great medium to tell their stories. But give them the exposure of scoring a Star Wars movie that's going to be watched by millions for years and years. I think they're going to knock it out of the park if they get the chance.
Yeah.
And so far, it's been great what we've got.
Yes.
All right. Jordan, anything else? Maul, so far, the first 2 episodes, you might want to chime in that we did get a chance, or are we good for now?
I think that's. I think that covers it. There's just it's just really good. It's off to such a great start. And I know there were some people that were concerned that Maul wasn't as involved in these first couple episodes, and I know there's some concerns like, oh, these new characters are going to take over the story. And it's like, no, man, I'm telling you now, this is very much Maul's story. So.
I mean, to each their own. I didn't feel that way. Again, this is Star Wars. It always has a big cast of characters, and I think everyone got their fair share to know where everything is going. And if this first 2 episodes is light on Maul, then I can't wait to see what we're gonna get next. But all right, Jordan, again, thanks a lot for joining us today. Everyone out there, make sure to follow Jordan on all his socials. Help out with ReelOutreach. Again, the description of this video has links to it. We'll keep reposting it if you can. But yeah, Jordan, thank you. Where can people find you out there in the wild world of the internet?
Well, thanks again so much for having me on here and giving me a chance to talk about my favorite guy. But people can find me pretty much anywhere I'm at. I just use my name. I try to keep things simple. So Jordan Maison at Jordan Maison, Maison. You can find me pretty much everywhere. Talking about Star Wars and ReelOutreach. So if you're looking for me, that's just type in my name. I'll pop up somewhere.
And we'll have that on the video description. Again, thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Kiwi Wyber, that was in the chat. That's my son. He jumped into the chat there to watch the show, so thank you. Hopefully Otto will be back at some point. He's been skipping our episodes. We might have to kick him to the curb soon, but no, he's busy out there. But again, Jordan, thank you. Thank you to everyone that took the time to listen to us. So we'll be back next week with more Shadow Lord. And the Mandalorian Grogu is like 2 months away. 2 months for a new Star Wars movie. So
close.
All right. Thank you, guys. See you next time. Stay safe. Be safe.
Thank you.
And may the Force be with you. End transmission.